Hello, welcome to History in the Shadows, where we unearth the tales time tried to erase, the whispers of the overlooked, the echoes of the unsung. Tonight, we delve into a labyrinth of strategy and secrecy, a story woven from the threads of legend and lost lore. Buckle up, shadow seekers, because what you're about to hear has slumbered in the archives for ages, waiting for the right move to awaken it. Let's start the story. The Forgotten Chess Queen, royal game master in the year 1472, under a sky bruised with the perpetual storm clouds of the Blackwood Realm, a girl named Elara Voss was born in the damp underbelly of Castle Grimshaw. The kingdom, a jagged scar on the map of medieval Eldoria, teetered on the brink of oblivion. Its rivers ran black with iron ore from mines that choked the earth, and its people whispered of curses laid by ancient sorcerers who once ruled from thrones of bone. King Harlan Voss, Elara's father, was a bear of a man, his crown heavy with the weight of endless border skirmishes with the gilded empire of Solara to the east. He ruled not with wisdom, but with the blunt force of a warhammer, his court a den of scheming lords who played politics like a brutal game of dice. Elara entered the world not in the opulent birthing chambers of the royals, but in the servants' quarters, for her mother, a lowly seamstress named Lyra, had caught the king's eye during a rare moment of vulnerability after a lost battle. Lyra died in childbirth, her final breath a ragged plea, "Teach her the patterns, Harlan. The world is a weave of threads, pull one, and see the tapestry shift." The king, gruff and grieving, honored the words in his own gruff way. He banished the babe to the castle's forgotten wing, a labyrinth of crumbling stone and cobweb tapestries, tended by old Nanny Thorne, a crone whose face was a map of wrinkles etched by forgotten wars. From her earliest days, Elara was a quiet storm. While other children chased butterflies in the barren courtyard, she traced shapes in the dust, circles that became spirals, lines that forked into endless branches. By age 5, she could mimic the flight of ravens with her fingers, predicting their dives from the twitch of a wing. It was Nanny Thorne who first saw the spark. The old woman, survivor of 3 sieges and keeper of illicit tomes smuggled from Solara's libraries, introduced Elara to the game that would become her destiny, chess. The board was a relic, pilfered from a Solaran envoy decades prior, a masterpiece of rosewood and walrus ivory, its pieces carved with faces twisted in eternal strategy. "This ain't no child's toy, lass," Thorne rasped, her voice like gravel under boot. "It's the soul of kings laid bare. Every square a battlefield, every piece a soul bartered for glory." Elara's small hands trembled as she touched the queen, her carved eyes seeming to gleam with forbidden knowledge. That first game, against Thorne's deliberate slowness, ended in under an hour. Elara's pawn stormed the board like a peasant revolt, her knight leaping barriers no child should fathom. "Checkmate." Thorne's laughter echoed like thunder in a tomb. "You've got the devil's own sight, girl. But remember, the board forgives no mercy." As seasons bled into years, Elara's world shrank and expanded in equal measure. The castle's shadows became her classroom. She devoured Thorne's tales of chaturanga, the ancient precursor born in the sun-baked sands of distant Persera, evolving into the shatranj of Arab caliphs, and finally the chess of European courts, each iteration a mirror to the chaos of its time. Elara learned not just moves, but meanings, the pawn's quiet advance symbolizing the inexorable rise of the common folk, the bishop's diagonal slice, the church's sly incursions into secular power, the rook's straight fury, the unyielding march of fortresses. But it was the queen, the most powerful piece, unbound by path or piety, who called to her soul. "She moves as she wills," Elara murmured one frostbitten eve, sliding the ivory sovereign across the board. Free, yet chained to the game. By her 10th year, whispers slithered through Grimshaw's halls. Servants spoke of the shadow girl who bested travelers in secret matches, her victories bartered for scraps of lore or forbidden fruits from the orchard. King Harlan, ever the brute, dismissed the rumors until a diplomatic envoy from Solara arrived, bearing gifts and veiled threats. Among them was Lord Caspian Draven, a Solaran noble whose reputation as a chess master preceded him like a storm front. Tall and hawkish, with eyes like polished obsidian and a smile that cut deeper than any blade, Caspian challenged the court to a tournament. Lords quaked, even Harlan's champion, a grizzled knight named Garrick, paled at the board. Elara watched from the rafters, her heart a war drum. When Garrick fell in 12 moves, his king cornered like a rat in a trap, she slipped down like mist, cloaked in Thorn's threadbare shawl. "I claim the board, my lord," she said, voice steady as stone. The hall fell silent, save for the crackle of hearthfire. Caspian arched a brow, amusement flickering. "A child? The Blackwood sends urchins to mock me?" But as pieces flew, Elara's gambit declining his queen's pawn opening, her counter with a Sicilian defense twisted into something feral, the amusement curdled to respect, then alarm. Her queen danced a deadly waltz, sacrificing a rook to lure his forces into a net of pins and forks. Checkmate in 27 moves. The envoy's gold stayed in Grimshaw, but Caspian lingered, his gaze now a hunter's on prey. "You play like no mortal I've faced," he confessed later, in the moonlit scriptorium where Elara pored over illuminated manuscripts of game theory. "It's as if you see the threads of fate itself." She met his eyes, unflinching. "The board doesn't lie, Lord Draven. Men do." From that night, Caspian became her shadow tutor, smuggling Solaren treatises on endgames and openings. He taught her the immortal game of Adolf Andersson, a century unborn but dreamed in his mind's eye, and the evergreen game's sacrificial blaze. In return, Elara shared Blackwood's brutal variants, rules where captured pieces could resurrect as ghosts, haunting the board. Their sessions stretched till dawn, charged with an electricity neither named, mentor and prodigy, forging a bond sharper than steel. Yet Grimshaw's winds carried treachery. Queen Isolde, Harlan's second wife, a venomous viper from the northern fens, saw Elara's rise as a threat. With no heirs of her own, Isolde plotted in perfumed chambers, her spies weaving webs of slander. "The bastard girl bewitches the Solaren dog," she hissed to her confidant, Lady Vesper, a raven-haired sorceress of subtle poisons. "She'll drag us into their golden maw." Vesper, whose arts blended herb lore with whispers of the arcane, nodded, her fingers tracing runes in spilled wine. "Then we unmake her, petal by petal." Elara turned 13 amid blooming heather and brewing storms. Her prowess spread beyond the castle, merchants carried tales to distant ports, dubbing her the royal game master, a title whispered in awe, for she mastered not just chess, but the court's invisible games. Harlan, softened by victories won through her counsel, she'd advised a feint in battle, mirroring a board tactic that routed Solaren scouts, summoned her to the high table. "Ye my blood, girl," he grunted, tossing her a signet ring etched with a snarling wolf. "Prove it ain't diluted." That night, at a grand feast, Elara faced the kingdom's champions in a simultaneous exhibition, 10 boards, blindfolded, her voice calling moves like a Sibyl's prophecy. She won 8, drew 1, lost to a cunning bishop from the cloth. The hall erupted, for the first time, cheers bore her name. But glory's blade cuts both ways. Caspian proposed alliance, marriage, when she came of age, binding Blackwood to Elara through strategy and something deeper. His letters, sealed with wax the color of midnight, spoke of futures where boards and beds intertwined. Elara's heart, a fortress unbreached, wavered. "Love is the fool's opening," Thorn warned, her gnarled hands folding a letter. "It exposes your center too soon." Yet in dreams, Elara saw his hand on hers, guiding a piece to victory. Doom struck on the eve of her 14th birthday. A gift arrived from Isolde's kin, a ornate chess set of ebony and pearl, its queen's face a mocking twin of Elara's own. Thorn inspected it, her nose wrinkling. "Poison in the polish, lass." Vesper's touch. But curiosity, that sly rook, lured Elara to play alone. As her fingers brushed the pieces, a haze descended, visions assaulting her mind, alternate boards where pawns became armies, queens toppled kings in cascades of blood. She collapsed, writhing, the court rushing in to find her foaming, eyes rolled back like dice in fate's cup. Healer after healer failed, Harlan raged, banishing Isolde to her towers, though whispers said she smiled in the dark. Caspian rode through gales to her bedside, his Solaren physicians dosing her with elixirs of saffron and myrrh. Days blurred into delirium. In fevered dreams, Elara wandered infinite boards, her queen a spectral guide. The game is rigged, child, the piece intoned, voice like wind through willows. But you can rewrite the rules. She awoke on the solstice, sweat-soaked and sharp as a blade, her mind etched with new stratagems, moves that bent probability, openings that foresaw 3 turns ahead. Word of the cursed prodigy fueled Isolde's fire. With Vesper's aid, she orchestrated a coup, forged missives implicating Caspian in treason, claiming he sought to poison the king through Elara's bewitched counsel. Harlan, paranoia his lifelong pawn, arrested the Solaren, chaining him in the deepest dungeon. Elara, barely mended, stormed the throne room, board under arm. Father, the board reveals all. Let me prove his innocence. Harlan relented, if only for spectacle. Before the court, Elara challenged Vesper, rumored to dabble in arcane chess, where pieces moved by moon phases and star alignments. The duel was no mere game, it was ritual. Torches flickered on a board twice ordinary size, pieces humming with latent magic. Vesper, cloaked in silver silk, opened with a sorceress Sicilian, her bishop sliding unnaturally far. Elara countered with a wild Rui Lopez, her knight forking illusions that shattered like glass. Sweat beaded, the air thickened with incense and incantation. Vesper summoned a phantom rook, blocking Elara's advance, but the girl saw the feint, the queen's shadow lurking. With a sacrificed pawn, Elara unleashed her endgame, the queen's gambit reversed, pieces converging like wolves on a lame stag. Vesper's king teetered, a final move, and checkmate. The sorceress shrieked, her illusions crumbling, revealing Isolde's hand in the plot. Justice was swift and savage. Isolde fled to the fens, Vesper burned at the stake, her ashes scattered on the board as a warning. Caspian was freed, his gratitude a vow, you are the queen of my world, Elara. Harlan, humbled, named her ward of the realm, her council binding in war councils. Blackwood flourished, Elara's tactics turned skirmishes to triumphs. She redesigned the army's formations after the fried liver attack, luring enemies into overextended flanks. Villages thrived, tales of the game master sung by bards with lutes strung from raven feathers. Yet shadows lengthened before nightfall. At 16, Elara stood at the precipice of womanhood, her body curving like a bishop's path, her mind a labyrinth none could map. Caspian pressed his suit, their stolen moments in the rose maze charged with unspoken fire. One twilight, under a canopy of thorns, he knelt. Marry me, Elara. Let our kingdoms merge as our strategies have. Her heart raced, a queen's tour across the board of desire. Yes, she whispered, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of salt and starlight. Their betrothal feast was legend, jugglers tossing flaming pieces, minstrels composing odes to immortal mates. But envy festers like an untreated wound. Lord Garrick, the knight once humbled, harbored grudge. Allied with exiled Isolde's remnants, he plotted in ale-soaked taverns. The bastard and the foreigner will drown us in Solaren gold, he growled to his co-conspirators, a cadre of disgruntled barons. Their scheme, sabotage the wedding tourney, framing Caspian for regicide. The tourney dawned golden, banners snapping in zephyr winds. Elara, resplendent in black velvet embroidered with silver queens, faced champions from allied lands. Her exhibition was poetry in peril, blindfolded against 5 foes, she narrated moves like epic verse, pawn to e4, the dawn charge, knight leaps to f3, the bold scout. Victories piled like trophies, the crowd roaring her name. Caspian watched, pride swelling, until Garrick's turn. The knight, fueled by spite and mead, opened aggressively, a king's gambit meant to overwhelm. Elara smelled the trap, a poisoned pawn, laced with Vesper's lingering toxin, positioned to graze her hand. But she was no novice to foul play. Feigning a slip, she toppled the board, the poisoned piece shattering on stone. Chaos erupted, accusations flying like arrows. Garrick lunged, blade drawn, but Caspian intercepted, steel clashing in a deadly duet. Elara, seizing a fallen sword, joined the fray, her strikes precise as en passant captures. Garrick fell, gurgling betrayal, his allies scattering like rooks in rout. The plot unraveled, threads leading to Isolde's hidden lair in the whispering marshes. Harlan mobilized, Elara insisted on leading the vanguard, board strapped to her saddle like a talisman. The march was a chess march, scouts as knights probing flanks, infantry pawns in phalanx. At the marsh's edge, under a harvest moon, they struck. Isolde's forces of Fenwraiths and Sellswords, ambushed from reeds, arrows whistling like ill-timed checks. Battle raged, mud churning to blood. Elara, astride a destrier black as night, directed from a hillock, her voice cutting fog, will the right flank, bishop's gambit formation. Her strategies saved the day. Solaren allies, summoned by Caspian, flanked the foe in a pincer mirroring the twin rooks. Isolde, cornered in her thorn-wreathed pavilion, faced Elara alone. No board between them, only daggers drawn. "You were always the spare piece," Isolde sneered, lunging. Elara parried, her riposte a queen's diagonal slash. The queen fell, gasping, "The shadows claim us all." Victory's afterglow was bittersweet. Harlan, wounded in the fray, summoned Elara to his deathbed. Yve made Blackwood a queen's realm, girl. But where the crown light, powers a double-edged blade. He perished at dawn, crown passing to Elara by bloodright, Caspian at her side as consort. Their wedding united realms, Blackwood's iron forged with Solara's gold, a new era dawning. Elara reigned as Queen Voss, the royal game master etched in chronicles. Her court buzzed with innovation, academies for strategists, boards in every hall. She birthed heirs, a son with Caspian's eyes, a daughter fierce as her namesake Lyra. Peace held, borders blooming with trade routes like opened files. But history, that capricious chronicler, plays the longest game. In her 40th year, whispers returned, not of envy, but of fear. Elara's visions, once dismissed as fever dreams, intensified. She foresaw plagues in pawn chains, uprisings installed middle games. Advisors called it madness, the church branded it heresy. Caspian defended her, but age wearied him, his moves slowing. The end came subtly, a poisoned chalice at a summit with distant envoys. Rivals from the east, jealous of Eldoria's unity, slipped nightshade into her wine, tasteless as a stealthy infiltration. She lingered months, her final days at the great board, playing phantom games against ghosts of foes past. The queen must fall for the board to reset, she murmured to Thorn, now ancient and bedridden. The crone clasped her hand. Yve checkmated fate itself, lass. Rest now. Elara Voss died on a winter's eve, 1512, her last breath exhaling a soft, en passant, to eternity. Caspian followed weeks later, grief his undoing. Their heirs ruled wisely, but time's eraser worked relentlessly. Church inquisitors, fearing her arcane ties to the board, echoes of Vesper's magic, purged records. Bards' songs faded, tapestries moth-eaten. The rosewood board vanished into Solara's vaults, labeled cursed relic. Elara became the forgotten chess queen, a footnote in dusty tomes, her gambits gathering dust. Centuries wheeled on. In 1923, archaeologist Dr. Elias Crow unearthed a sealed crypt in Grimshaw's ruins, a stone queen, eyes defiant, inscribed with runes spelling game master. Accompanying scrolls, waterlogged but legible, chronicled her saga. Crow published fragments, but world wars buried them anew. Until now, shadow seekers, dug from forgotten stacks, pieced by moonlight, this tale emerges, pristine as a fresh board. What lessons linger? That power, like a queen, moves freely but falls hard. That women, long sidelined to pawns, can claim the center. And that in every game, shadows hide the true masters. Thank you for joining us in History in the Shadows. If this tale hooked your mind like a knight's fork, smash that like button, subscribe for more unearthed enigmas, and drop in the comments, What's your boldest chess move in life? Until next time, play wisely, or be played.